Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of For the Love of Marketing. Today, we're going to talk about SEO, some great tips and advice coming from Jeff here on backlinks and content. I'm so really excited to have for the last episode of this first season, Jeff Collins with me, Senior SEO Manager at Purple. So much wealth of knowledge in Jeff's brain, so we're going to try and squeeze it out of there today. So welcome, Jeff.
Yeah, it's great to be here with you and talking to you about SEO. I'm excited.
I always start it seemingly with a comment about something I can see, which is great for those listening to it on audio. But I love that picture on the back wall. Is that somewhere you've been, or is that a photo you took? Was that just something you love the picture, or?
Yeah, it's just a picture that I love. So it's actually a picture in Alaska. And so it's kind of on my bucket list to go to that area to essentially see that picture, but in person. So
And for those that can't see it, it's the Northern Lights. Beautiful over an icy landscape. Looks absolutely incredible. I've never seen them myself. My wife has, I have not. So that is on my bucket list as well. Probably not Alaska. That's quite a long way from where I am, but maybe Iceland or Norway or somewhere like that. But anyway, we will have these dreams. So look, great for having you with us, Jeff. It's exciting to have you here. SEO is such a huge area, and it's always been a hot topic as long as I've been in marketing, which is about 25 years. So, right back in the late 90s, it was just beginning to become a hot topic, and it's been huge ever since. It doesn't go away. So, I mean, what are some of the things that you think people need to be focusing on at the moment for SEO? What are some really core areas for people to double down on?
yeah, I think for 2023, content's going to be a big one. And I think as we see AI content come out more and more, we're going to see a lot less, businesses being able to kind of put out more basic content. So yeah, I think a big focus is content, and with that, it being really quality content.
So you've hit right on something that is really interesting to me at the moment around AI content. I think this is a huge topical area in the industry, and I think I mean, certainly I've played with AI content. We've used it in my company. To a certain degree. We don't use it actually with any of our clients' copywriting at the moment. We do all of that manually, but we have certainly toyed with it. I think there's some real benefits to using it, and there's some real risks to using it as well, especially from an SEO perspective. I mean, what's your take on it?
Yeah, so I've kind of played with different artificial content tools. And so my take on it is it's pretty good for short form content or, writing ads. In my opinion, it's not good at all in terms of, click a button, write an entire blog post, that sort of use. I still think it's a ways away to be able to, especially like bottom funnel to mid funnel type content, for it to be able to compete with, a human that's doing all the research and writing that type of content versus just clicking a button. I think that's a ways.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think, for me, where AI's got to with areas like advertising, being able to really analyze data and play with the millions of variations and try out short headlines and elements of copy and optimize around those. Great, really good progress in a good place. But it's also, I found, really good for helping to effectively plan some areas of content, structure some content as well. It can give you some insight and data into that. But in terms of actually writing the piece, as you say, it's just generally not good. And there's a huge risk, I think, of duplicate content as well that I'm seeing, as the AI isn't necessarily writing it. It's more sort of borrowing pieces from various places. And of course, those pieces get borrowed more than once when you're talking about the same subject. So I think we're a little way away. I think we're probably 5-10 years away from being able to do this really well. But it is coming along at pace. So I think for me, anyone in SEO should be keeping a very close eye on AI, but definitely not relying on it to write their content at the moment. So I think we're probably on the same page there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, what else? What else is going on in content?
Yeah, I think one thing that comes to mind as well with content is we've kind of, in my opinion, in 2023, we're moving into an area where companies have become, they want to be more and more lean and pay attention to like what's going to bring the most return. There's a bit of a recession, so buyers maybe are a little more hesitant to buy. So I think with content, in the past, it's maybe just let's blast out a bunch of content, cover everything, but we'll see kind of businesses become maybe a little more strategic with their content of, hey, what content is most important to our audience and what's going to drive most value rather than just kind of throwing tons of stuff out there.
Yeah, that's an interesting piece. I mean, recession marketing is an interesting topic. I've actually just recently written a piece about it myself. I think it's a fascinating area, and I've been through a couple of recessions myself. So I've experienced various different strategies that businesses have put into place. Some good, some bad. But I think that's a really smart point there. That I think focusing in on the audience that is right, perhaps the most profitable or the highest converting audience, and writing the relevant pieces that are going to push them the step along the funnel, and perhaps parking some of that content that's a little bit looser is a really smart thing to do. How would you recommend people go about doing that? If you've got an existing content plan that's pretty broad, where do you start, do you think, in terms of getting that really laser focus in on the areas that matter?
Yeah, I think a good start is one, just understanding like from the business side what products are most important. I think a lot of times in SEO there's so many things we can do, but we got to choose like what's going to have the most impact. So start with depending on the budget, whether it be a few products or 5 products that are most important to the business, and then from there work with customer service teams, take surveys from customers to understand what are the pain points that they have related to the product and things that are important to them. And then at that point, going out, looking at the search data to connect those dots and start creating content.
That's great. I think very good. Always go to the data. Where do you get your data from for when you say the search data? Some people and listen to this are going to have very sophisticated methods doing that. So that some others just won't know where to turn for what to write. What's your sort of go-to place to get that data?
Yeah, I would say the main ones, I use Ahrefs a lot. So yeah, I'll use Ahrefs, and then Search Console. I'll use different templates and things that um, I can pull data from. And a big thing is I like to look at existing content within Search Console, and a lot of times Google will rank, that content for closely related topics or things, and so just find opportunities there.
Nice. Well, that's a really great tip. And of course you have your newsletter, don't you? Giving all these sort of tips out all the time, which is a fantastic piece of content. Just remind me of that. What's that called again?
Yeah, so it's SEOstudyspot.com. And so with that, essentially there's so many things in SEO like tips, templates. And so I created SEOstudyspot.com to be able to just house all of the strategies and tips and things that I use, and then also share them with others. So once a week, I send an email out to subscribers where they get an actionable SEO tip straight to their email. And then I'll throw in templates as well.
It's great. I think the actionable being is so important. Yeah, I think gone are the days of the old sort of monthly newsletter where you just update someone on, this is what's been going on in the business, or here's some news in the industry. Because that stuff's also accessible now. It's so easy to grab hold of, just up to date news and sort of generic information. The really important stuff is where you're teaching someone something, or you're giving them a really practical tip that they can just go and action straight away. There's so much value in that. So that's a fantastic newsletter, and I would definitely recommend everyone goes out and subscribes to that. It's really, really powerful. So your content, obviously, we've talked about there, and I think that it's such a huge area, and it is critical. And as you say, laser focusing in on that niche not only helps during a recession, but it also helps build your authority around a specific topic, generally within SEO, of course. But beyond that, one of the sort of dark arts and the difficult areas of SEO is linking, right? So you're really trying to be able to build links from genuine sources. It's dangerous if you get it wrong. You've got to really go about it, but you've got to put the hard sweat and effort into going about that. What's your thinking on backlinking these days? Where's your head at?
I think the backlinking, it's effective, but only with good content or some sort of, a landing page that has solid UX. Um, yeah, I'll see, sometimes there's a product that maybe is not good, the landing page is not good, or blog content is not good, and then there's tons of backlinks thrown onto it. I think that's not effective. But in my opinion, like a solid landing page or a solid piece of content combined with quality links is powerful for sure.
So do you focus mainly on going out and trying to get sort of guest posts and PR coverage to generate backlinks, or what's your recommendation?
Yeah, so I think it can vary a little bit depending on kind of the niche of the business. But yeah, usually I'm a big fan of linkable assets and then also like PR commentary. So getting um, kind of niche commentary about the business in different areas on the internet.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, PR has so much power, and I think rather than trying to just go out there and get in the nationals, actually focusing in on, as you say, in your we say niche, you say niche. The joys of
Okay.
different sides of the pond. But yeah, getting in on that sort of niche coverage, I think is really powerful and gives you obviously much more chance of getting that coverage and that link in than if you're trying to get out to one of the nationals that A are unlikely to cover you, and B, if they do, probably won't give you a link back anyway. Um, so you mentioned linkable assets there, and there's something I used to refer to and still do actually as link baiting as well. What makes a great linkable asset? And talk a little bit about that for me, because that's an area that I think is is really well understood in the SEO community, but perhaps not very well understood at all outside of the SEO community. So tell me a little bit about what you mean by linkable assets and what makes a great linkable asset, so people can think about how they might go about attacking that one.
Yeah, for sure. So in my opinion, like a good linkable asset is there's some sort of intent that someone is going to a page for. And so with that linkable asset, it visually helps answer their question and give them the information that they want um, within the linkable asset. So it just makes it really easy for them to kind of get the information that they want. And then it allows them to easily, link to it, share it somewhere else, that sort of thing.
Cool. Have you got an example of that? Have you got one that maybe you've been involved in, or just one that you've seen and you think is great?
Yeah, so one might be, let's say you're targeting something like, what are the benefits of email automation? And then the linkable asset could be different stats on, why they're beneficial for businesses. So I think a good way to tie that in is to send out surveys. If you have your own data, works the best. That's ideal. It doesn't have to be that way, but yeah, send out surveys, get data, on those benefits, and then include those in the linkable assets so people can just visually see that.
Nice, nice, good tip. And yeah, I think internal linking also, once we're talking about linking, I think that's also one that I see getting a bit overlooked. It seemed to be such a strong area a few years ago, and it's almost like it's lost a bit of focus. I mean, do you know what I mean by that? Does that make sense to you? Because in my mind, as I look around, I don't see enough internal linking happening these days. Is that do you agree with that, or is that just in my wheelhouse?
Yeah, I think I would say internally linking is probably at the top of the list when it comes to like underrated techniques that people
Mm.
can use to boost their SEO.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think writing good content is all very well and good, but if you don't link that content between other relevant pieces, and especially service pages and where you're trying to direct that traffic and where you're trying to build that authority for, you're really kind of wasting not exactly wasting your time, but you're certainly not being the most productive you could be. So that internal linking bit, I think, alongside that backlinking is really important. Awesome. Okay. And outside of that, take a bit of a sidestep. So, content and backlinking, huge areas. I always talk about the SEO triangle, which is this concept that I came up with, I don't know, 10 years or so ago, trying to take the ranking factors of the search engines and splitting them into three buckets, which is technical, content, and links. And ultimately, pretty much I think every ranking factor still fits into one of those corners of the triangle now. Um, So we've talked a bit about linking, we've talked a bit about content there. What do you think the situation with is on technical SEO at the moment? Because there's so much going on in that space with new code bases and new CMSs, and obviously, mobile is very, very well established now as the primary area of focus, but we still see issues there. Page speed still seems to be a massive issue throughout so many sites, and there's so much mess in code bases and things. I mean, do you see any trends around technical SEO that really need a bit more attention at the moment?
So I don't know that I see any trends that on the technical side that necessarily need more attention, or at least I can think of right now, top of mind. But I think one that I don't see talked about much is a lot of times in technical SEO, if something goes wrong on the site, it can really hurt SEO, and it can, wipe out traffic, depending on what the issue is, in a short period of time. And and with that said, there's a lot of times where that can happen and a company's not even aware of it. Like they don't know that there's an issue, and then they start to see traffic, decline maybe later on. And then it becomes a scramble of like, what's the issue? So there's a lot of like tools and processes out there that businesses can put in place and say, hey, if X happens, send me an email and tell me this happened. That way you immediately know what the issue is and you can fix it. So yeah, in my opinion, that's one that's not talked about as much, but it's kind of like an insurance policy. It can save businesses a lot of time and money.
That's a great tip. That's a great tip. I mean, have you got one of those tools you can name for those that are listening?
Yeah, so a couple of big ones are Deep Crawl. Actually, they just renamed the company to Lumar, and then there's Content King as well.
Hmm. Okay, brilliant. Yeah, that's fantastic. That's really good advice. Great. Okay. Look, Jeff, I think that's been an absolute masterclass in SEO at the moment. There's I mean, this is a huge area. We could talk for weeks on this, right? Let's be honest, and not cover everything. So but there's some big things going on. I think that piece around AI is great. Those tips on backlinking and linkable assets, especially, really, really interesting. And the trends around content and what we're expecting people to see over the next year or so, as we hopefully don't spend too long in this recession, but it's coming and we've got to prepare for it. I think that's really sound advice. So look, thanks very much for that. Anything else you want to add before we round off?
I don't think so. It's been great chat, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, pleasure. All right, lovely. Well, look, thanks very much, Jeff. That's been great. And thanks everyone for listening. Don't forget to subscribe. And we'll see you in the next season of For the Love of Marketing. Cheers.
All right, have a good one.